Here are a few learnings that have been brought to my attention recently through clients, new friends I've met, and life experiences generally on the complicated subject of toxic people, people with a toxic side. It sounds like such an extreme and obvious term, toxicity, doesn't it? Like, wow, you clearly know if someone was toxic. And sometimes you can feel that in your body. It's like your body's trying to talk. However, I think one of the complexities of toxic people is that toxicity, whilst it sounds really obvious, can be quite insidious. In other words, it can be gradual and subtle and can be hidden underneath charming polarities like charm, kindness, caring. And sometimes it takes quite a while to clock that more poisonous sort of underbelly. This is what I like to think of as the Michael Jackson effect. Now, obviously he was a very kind, caring, quite outstanding character, and I have no idea whether he was actually essentially a kiddie fiddler. But I've noticed in comments online that I read that people find it, including me, really hard to imagine that somebody can have such wonderful premium qualities, but also essentially be really toxic, dysfunctional, and potentially verging on the criminal. So the bottom line is, if you ever feel unsafe, scared, even if you can't fully understand why, always remove yourself from people like that, even if they have a lovely, lovely side and other people can't see that sort of toxicity. It's near impossible to have a healthy relationship with someone with a toxic side, whether a mother, a father, a boyfriend, or a friend, and it will usually come out and bite you in the end. The next learning is I deliver mental health training, and it's really focused on helping to teach people about the signs and symptoms of common mental health conditions and how we can support them. And if you're anything like me and you're empathetic and prone to want to support and help others, you'll often look for the good in people and think about how you can help them. But the one thing that the course neglects slightly is the damaging ripple effect of people who either do not want help and have serious undiagnosed mental health conditions, or people who may have really deep unresolved issues. I'm not a judgy person, but it can have a really destructive ripple effect. And it can be really difficult if that person is, say, a family member or somebody that you have fallen in love with, discovering a complete resistance to getting help, or a real lack of progress required to have a healthy relationship with that person. As we know, there is no health without mental health, and your mental health comes first. So even if you have to remove yourself from that person, or estrange yourself from that person, sometimes that is what's required to preserve your own well-being. So never feel bad about that if that's what happens in the end. The final point really is that toxic people can be master manipulators and victim players. They can be very high functioning, very successful, very kind and caring to many people, and that can be a bit of a head fuck. It's another way to put it, really. And sometimes others will not see that different face behind closed doors. Perhaps you're the only person that sees that as a child of a person or a partner of a person. And again, if you're prone to seeing the good in people and prone to wanting to help other people, it may be that you're more focused on their needs than your own, or that you are inclined to minimise your own stress or distress because you're busy over-functioning or trying to understand that other person. So just remember, it's a complicated and fine line between supporting somebody else and kind of enabling and rescuing them, which can be quite unhealthy beyond a certain point. And if you're still sort of struggling to see the wood for the trees, I refer you to my last post, which is really powerful. I think if you're, say, in a relationship with somebody who has a toxic side, whilst also seeming quite wonderful, ask yourself, what would a parent think if they saw what just happened? What would they want for me? And you can also ask yourself, if I was a parent, what would I want for my child right now? And that tends to cut straight through the greyness and confusion of the things that come with toxic people, manipulation, complexity, and all that stuff, straight to the truth. So look after yourself at all costs. If you notice toxic behaviours, I advise you to draw boundaries very early on and look after your well-being above all else.